So for my presentation, I'll be doing tabnabbing, which is a function of SE Toolkit. Actually, I'm only capturing part of my screen because every time I try to capture the whole thing, my program crashes. So we're just going to do this much of it. So what is tabnabbing? Tabnabbing is another way to attempt to steal credentials from an unsuspecting user, as my slide says here. I'll be using SiteCloner of the three options that it gives. It gives a user a fake link that says that it requires load time. So basically, you give someone your IP address or have it masked as a URL or something inside an email or on a web page that says like sign into Google now to fix your account or something like that. And they click on it. It shows please wait while the page is loading. And what you hope to do is that they switch tabs during that load time because they get bored and go check something else. And when they come back, the page is loaded and they're less suspecting of it because that event happened. They're hopefully less suspecting of it rather than more suspecting of it. In this sense, it has a bit of a psychology aspect to it, which is kind of interesting. So who is this aimed at? Tabnabbing is aimed at users who open several tabs. Sometimes they get bored and switch between tabs, flip around. It really helps if they're not expecting a site to be fake because they have so many tasks going on and they might not be paying attention. As it notes here, it would work well against a user who is busy or bored and is therefore not paying attention because they're hopefully more likely to switch tabs and cause our attack to work. So the relevance of this attack. SE Toolkit overall is an excellent tool. It offers many different types of attacks and they're very easy to execute. This is only one of many different available attacks, and I wouldn't by any means say that this is the most effective way to site clone and try to get someone's authentication. But it is one that is interesting, and maybe it'd work better on a certain target audience. Setting up an attack is quite simple. Really all you need is an IP address and the URL you want to clone. In this example, I will be using gmail.com, which will autocorrect itself to accounts.google.com. Being aware of this attack helps one to be cautious of it. Know your enemy, I suppose, in this sense. You're less likely to get hit by this if you're aware that it exists. So just knowing that tabnabbing exists might help you someday in the future. Okay, so the how-to real quick. I'll be showing this in a second in a demo, but this is basically what I'm going to be doing. Is I'm going to go in SE Toolkit, go under the social engineering attacks, then beneath that I'm going to go into website attack vectors, then the tabnabbing attack method, I'm going to click SiteCloner. That's then going to prompt me to enter an IP address and then the URL that I want cloned. Then it'll launch, and after it launches, I'll show the example. So I did have some issues when running this tabnabbing. The biggest issue I have was that I could not find the SE config file. This is just based on the troubleshooting I did online. It seems to be set to want to use Apache, and because of this, it saves my site cloned website as HTML files rather than just launching it and being able to type in the IP address and getting sent to that clone site. And the way you're supposed to do this is go into the SE config file and type in auth for the use Apache option. Since I couldn't do this, I'm actually just going to show it with the Apache option on, which still works. It just doesn't work quite as effectively, and it doesn't properly reroute someone when they switch tabs. So that's unfortunate, but the site cloning still works and the authentication or stealing the credentials still works. So yeah, I believe that was probably the issue that I'm having. If not, maybe someone else can diagnose it properly, but that's how I diagnosed it. But luckily this will still work to the extent that I can show it. So now we're going to have the demo. Let me just pull up the VM here. So I used the first VM we got inside the offensive network security. So I'll launch this real quick. Unfortunately, they're all down, so I'll just pause this. Okay, so now we got my VM started. I'm going to go ahead and assign my root user. So I have this open ahead of time just in case, or just so it's ready. Okay, so the first step of what we're going to do is we need to make sure we have our IP address. So I'm just going to go in here, copy this 192.168.1.125. Let's copy that to my clipboard. clear this real quick. All right, now we're going to go to the SE toolkit. Several other presentations were done using the SE toolkit, so you can see how simple it is. It's really quite streamlined, makes it very easy for the user. So yeah, we're going to website attack vectors. Next we're going to tabnabbing attack method, and we're going to use a site cloner. So I want the IP address for my post back. I'm just going to paste in my IP address and the URL to clone. So www.gmail.com. As you can see, it fixes that into accounts.google.com right up here. So some things to note real quick. So it does say tabnabbing attack vectors enabled. Victim needs to switch tabs. This is how it would ideally work, but mine won't work that way. But I do have both the please wait now loading site and the actual site clone site saved as HTMLs due to the Apache thing. I assume that this is why it did that, because it says Apache set to on. Everything will be placed in your web root directory of Apache, and files will be written out to the root directory of Apache, and all files are within your Apache directory since you specified it to on. Unfortunately, I couldn't fix this, but it still works nonetheless. So we're going to go travel over to there real quick. So here it is in my var www HTML. It saved a index, an index2, which is what it would route it to, the post.php, and my harvester file, which it's going to write the passwords to. So I'm going to move all of this into my HTML folder. Replace, replace, replace. I need the harvester as well. And this is the newer harvester, so we're going to go ahead and get rid of this one because it's not necessary. So I'm going to launch this index.html1. So this is what it would show you. Please wait while the site loads. Right about now is when you want someone to get bored and switch over to another tab and look at Google or something. And then when they come back, it would ideally be loaded, but unfortunately mine does not work like that due to the issues I said I had. But we're going to pull up the index2 manually as to what would show up. So here's the site clone. A good way to make sure you don't ever get hit by this is just look at the URL. Another reason why this doesn't work is that it doesn't show my IP address, it just shows my file location because it saved it to my computer using Apache rather than hosting it. It's unfortunate, but we're just going to sign in as someone with the password secure1! Press sign in. Then it actually routes me to Google, which makes it look a little more legit, I guess. But we come back to here, look inside my harvester file. We'll see here that here's the email field, someone, and the password secure1! So it successfully pulled their credentials. So now we would have those, which is great. So that's basically how that would work. Let me go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint again. So that was my demo of how this works. In conclusion, users should be wary of links that are sent to them on emails or on forums, etc. Especially check for that URL, since that one was clearly fake. And if it was running normally and it showed my IP address, it would still be clearly fake. And if someone spoofs it even, just look out for, Microsoft where it's M1 CRO or something like that. Overall, with all the different options on SE Toolkit, I sum it up here. There are many ways of getting a user to hand over their credentials. Online when I was researching this, a cool quote I found was that the easiest way to get them to do it is to just hand them over to you rather than trying to crack passwords by using rainbow tables or anything like that. It's just easier to trick them and get them to give their credentials to you directly. Tabnabbing is not necessarily the most effective method. I spoke on this a little bit earlier, but any site cloner will get that job done. The idea with tabnabbing is just hopefully to get someone to let their guard down because they get annoyed or inconvenienced by the fact that it needs to load and they leave and they come back, that now they're not thinking about, oh, is this a real site? Is this fake? They're just thinking like, oh, finally it loaded, and then they try to sign in, and then you get your results. Also, just to show what it would look like normally, here's an example I found online that I have in my sources slide that I'll show right after this. This is it running within SE Toolkit. You can see down by my mouse here, email equals pentestlab_user@hotmail.com, password equals let me in. So this is how it would normally show up inside your console, but mine just showed up written to that harvester file because of the Apache thing that I mentioned earlier. So I think what's really be taken from this is match attacks to the target. If tabnabber is the attack that would work the best on your target, then go for that. If it's not, then there's probably a better, more efficient target that you, or better, more efficient attack that you could be using that'll more consistently yield results. So the source that I used was pentestlab.wordpress.com. They had a bunch of different SE toolkit tutorials that were really helpful. So if anyone wants to learn more about this attack or another attack within SE toolkit, I suggest going over there. Thanks so much for watching.